ביאור משנה ח'. Explanation for Mishnah Chet. Evarei hatamid, the limbs of the tamid, means we bring a tamid twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, the first one and the last one. So it says Evarei hatamid, ha'evarim shel korban hatamid, the limbs of korban hatamid. So in other words, the first order of the day, the Kohanim comes inside. You imagine they went and they say Krishma and they say the whole thing and they say, no. The first thing before everything is Korban Tamid. So they did the Korban Tamid, that's the first thing, and then they did everything you think you need to do in the morning. First, I don't know about brachot. Brachot might be maybe brachot before, but everything else. But everything else that we do in Zeh, that you have to do. So the first thing to do is the Korban Tamid. But then don't burn it yet, because you can burn it the whole day. Now do everything else, or you see so. So they didn't burn it immediately, that's the point. They didn't burn the limbs immediately. So the question, what did they do with them? Evarei hatamid, האיברים של קורבן התמיד, the limbs of קורבן התמיד, the נותנים, they would give, מחצי כבש ולמטה במזרח. From half this ramp and down to the east. In other words, there's a ramp going up to the altar. So the Korban Tamid, everybody knows it's on the east of the altar in the middle. So that when they're going to burn it, they'll know this is Korban Tamid. מצידו הדרומי של המזבח היה כבש. From the south of the altar there was a ramp, כמין גשר משופע, just like a ramp, שהיו בו עולים אל המזבח, that you used to go up on the altar with it. אורכו 32 אמה, the length was 32 אמה, ורוחבו 16 אמה, and the width is 16 אמה. וכשבאו הכהנים להעלות את עברתם למזבח, when the Kohanim came to take the limbs of the sacrifice on the altar, לא היו מעלים אותם בבת אחת. They wouldn't take the whole thing at one shot. אלא נותנים אותו בתחילה על הכבש. The first they put it on the ramp, והולכים ללשכת הגזית לקרוא את שמה. And then they started to do the day. Okay? Now they go to another part of the Beit HaMikdash, because they have a mitzvah from the Torah, Shema. Remember, there's no davening yet over here at this time. Yeah? There is davening, but not in our way. Yeah? That's right. לשכת הגזית לקרוא את שמה. Of course, there was davening, but it wasn't set by, you davened from whoever knows how to davened, whatever it is. ואחר כך מעלים אותם על גבי המזבח. And afterwards, after they said the Shema, they said whatever they did, that's the mitzvah from the Torah, they came back and to burn the limbs on the mizbeach, on the altar. ובא המשנה ללמד, our Mishnah comes to teach, שהאיברים היו ניתנים מחציו של הכבש ולמטה. They would leave it on the lower half of the ramp, on the east. היינו ב-16 האמות התחתונות וב-8 אמות שבצד המזרח. So on the lower half, on the east of the ramp. That's where they leave it.
What? The kevis we used to be?
The limbs, the animal, the shell.
So they give you now where the location of the limbs always were?
They were not always there. They were just there until the burning. They didn't burn it immediately. They went to say Shema, and then they came back to burn them. But where would they leave the thing? So they will leave it. They can't leave it. It has to go on the altar. So they did put it on the altar, halfway through the altar, but not on top of the altar. Because it says, why are you leaving your job halfway through? It says, we're not leaving it halfway through. We did the whole job. You asked us to put it on the altar. We did put it on the altar. Later on, we're going to put it in a different place on the altar.
Fire maybe.
There's no fire at all, though. Fire is on top.
It's on the ramp.
It's just the ramp to go up.
That's still on the ramp?
That's still on the ramp, on the lower half of the ramp. Okay. The ramp is 32 amos, so this has to be within the first 16 amos.
I disagree. I would put it right on the mizbeach already. Why I have to put it on the ramp?
Yeah, because you don't want to burn it before the Shema. You want to be holy when you burn it, not holy. You want to already experience God. You're elevated by the Shema. Right?
When it says limbs, it's talking about arms and legs? Limbs?
I think over here it means all the parts that goes on the altar. Yeah, the whole shebang. So, yeah. ושל מוספים, והאיברים של עולות המוסף ביום שיש בו מוסף, What about it's a day that there is a musaf in? נותנים מחצי כבש ולמטה במערב. You would put it, again, halfway through, but on the west.
מחצית כבש, you mean that this is כבש.
That's right, the ramp.
כבש.
That's right. Yeah, כבש. כבש is a ramp. כבש is a ramp. נותנים מחצי כבש ולמטה במערב.
Not the same word as the sheep.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. בשמונה אמות שבצד מערב. In the 8 amot that is in the way to the מערב. The reason, by the way, the reason why you call keves keves, because it brings you up. It brings your prayers up to God. That's the idea.
Oh, and that's
Okay.
why this is keves.
Keves, yeah. Because it takes you up to the top of the altar. Same thing. That's the idea. Keves also is a thing. That's it. ויש גורסים להפך. And there are those who say it's actually the opposite. איבריה תמיד נתנים מחצי כבש ולמטה במערב. It says, no, the תמיד you put on the west and the musaf you put on the east. Okay. ושל ראשי חודשים, where would you put that sacrifices of the head of the month? נותנים על קרקוב המזבח מלמעלה. You will put on the קרקוב המזבח. קרקוב המזבח is a place on top of the מזבח, it's big. So, and there would be fires over there, not just one. There was a couple of places of fires.
Underneath or on top?
On top, on top. You put the...
On top?
On top, yeah. You put the thing, like a bedura. You'll make it stones and you will put stuff on top. Yeah, like 3. Usually I think there were 3 or 2. Yeah, and there was a place for the Kohen to walk around. This is the karkov. So they will put it on the karkov. נותנים על קרקוב המזבח למעלה, בין קרנות המזבח, between the corners of the altar. מקום הילוך רוגלי הכהנים. This is the place where the Kohanim used to walk. ועתה מבואר בגמרא, the reasoning is given in the Gemara, כדי לפרסם שהיום ראש חודש. Everybody is looking and says, hey, guys, it's ראש חודש. You have to add an addition. יש גורסים, the Adol says, ושל ראשי חודשים, ניתנים תחת קרקוב המזבח מלמטה. Some said it was put underneath the קרקוב המזבח מלמטה. כלומר, בחציו העליון של הכבש. In other words, it wasn't really on top of the מזבח, it was on the upper part of the ramp. סמוך לקרקוב המזבח, close to the place where the Kohanim used to walk. למטה הימנו מעט, a very close distance from it. Up to here, we finish this section. Next one. Now it's going to talk practical, which we did a lot of things over here with the Shekalim. Do we still do Shekalim? We don't do Shekalim. Or a lot of things that has to do today. Do we still give Truma? We don't give Truma. So it's going to discuss these things. Hashkalim ve'habikurim. The shekel and the bikurim and the first fruit. In other words, the money for the sacrifices that we give every year and the first fruit that goes to the Kohen. אין נוהגים אלא בפני הבית. The custom is only to do it when the temple is standing. If there's no temple, you don't do them. בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, at the time that the temple is standing. שקלים, why שקלים? משום שאינם באים אלא לצורך קורבנות הציבור. Because we said, what's the main... It's true that they used to use it, like we said, for other purposes sometimes. But the reason they collected them was the sacrifices. You don't have the temple, what are you collecting money from? It's not like the American government. Even, let's increase the money for the bridge that we're building. And after the bridge is done, they're going to continue to charge you money. Over here, they can't. That's it. There's no temple. Don't charge me money. What are you charging me money for? You don't give me anything. It's not like the government in America, where once they give you a tax, it never goes down. It only goes up. Okay? ובזמן שאין קורבנות, אין שקלים. The time there's no sacrifices, there's no שקלים. והביקורים, what about ביקורים? Goes to the Kohen. שנאמר בהם, it says in ביקורים, it says in them, ראשית ביקורי אדמתך, it says the beginning of the fruit of your land, תביא, you're going to bring to where? בית השם אלוקיך. You're going to bring it to the house of the Lord your God. ודרשו, there's no house, there's nowhere to bring it. I know I don't give it to the house, I give it to the Kohen. But that's not the point. It says bring it to the house. The Kohen represents the house. כל זמן שיש לך בית השם, יש לך ביקורים, which we learn every time there's the temple is there, then there's the mitzvah of ביקורים. No temple, no ביקורים. אין לך בית השם, אין לך ביקורים. There's no temple, there's no ביקורים. ויש למדים מה שנאמר, there are other people learn from a different verse. It says, והניחו לפני מזבח השם. It says, and you should place it in front of the altar of God. כל זמן שיש לך מזבח, יש לך ביקורים. As long as you have an altar, you have ביקורים. אין לך מזבח, אין לך ביקורים. If you don't have an altar, you don't have ביקורים. ברם, בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, but at the time that there is a temple, יש הבדל בין שקלים לביקורים. There is a difference between the שקלים and between ביקורים. ששקלים נותנים כל ישראל, בין בארץ ישראל, בין בחוץ לארץ. That שקלים, even if you're in America, you have to bring. It doesn't matter. Everybody wants to participate in the sacrifices. ואילו בביקורים, אין מביאים אלא מארץ ישראל בלבד. But ביקורים, you're not going to bring from your fruits over here in Tucson. You don't need to bring bikurim. You only need to bring bikurim if you have a land in Eretz Israel. So that there is a difference at the time of the temple. In other words, they will still collect. If Beit HaMikdash is built tomorrow, and let's say we still live over here, which we're not, but let's say theoretically, we still have shkalim, but no bikurim. Okay.
And you don't, you're not changing your bikurim for kesef and sending them over.
Where, in Israel or here?
If you're here.
No bikurim. There's no such thing. Doesn't exist. אבל...
If you're in Israel and you can't get it to the temple, you change
That's
it
right.
for coins and...
That's right. אבל מעשר דגן, but what about tithing? All the tithing, you know, the rules that we learn about tithing, you know, what about those? תרומות ומעשרות של דקן, sacrifice, all the tithing of grain, ומעשר בהמה, and the tithing of animals, שהצורה מצווה להפריש אחד מעשרה מכל בהמות טהורות, that the Torah tells us to put away 1 out of 10 of all pure animals, שיוולדו לאדם בכל שנה ושנה, all the new animals that are born every year, כמו שכתוב, וכל מעשך, it says, in all your deeds, all your בקר וצאן, cattle and sheep, כל אשר יעבור תחת השבט, everything that's going to come under the stick, העשירי יהיה קודש להשם. The 10th one will be holy to God. והבכורות, and also the firstborn, מצוות קדושת הבכורות, the holiness of the firstborn, כמפורש בתורה, נוהגים בין בפני הבית ובין שלא בפני הבית. It doesn't matter if the temple is there, it doesn't matter if the temple is not there, because it doesn't say to bring them בית השם אלוקיך. בין בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, ובין בזמן שאין בית המקדש קיים.
So where do you take מעשר דגן?
Where would you give it? Give it to the Kohen. Give it to the Levi.
אבל אין כהן
Give it to your...
במעשר דגן.
You have a different problem, so maybe that's why you need...
They give מעשר מהדגן שלך בארץ ישראל?
Of course. What do you mean? That's why all the rules in Israel, you have to buy things in the special shops.
מעשר בכסף, אבל לא...
Of the grains, of course. When you go to the market in Israel, can you buy your vegetables everywhere? You have to have a תעודת כשרות. That's right. That's what it is. They don't give it the 10% because there's no... It's a side issue. You're supposed to give 10% even today. I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem today is that nobody has no Kohen. First of all, no Kohen can be pure. Yeah, that's the first problem. But the second problem, no Kohen can prove that he's a Kohen. There's no miyuchas. There's no Kohen. So since there's not one who can claim it, they kept the custom, but they don't give 10%, they give a symbolic amount. But you're supposed to, but if somebody can show you to that Shoroshin all the way back, give it to me. Yeah.
It's such a problem because even religious stores, religious supermarkets, they don't sometimes have a sign that it's, you don't know.
לא, שוק יש. במחנה יהודה.
Yeah. Some people, I know, it's a problem.
במחנה יהודה, you see, they have
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah, there's like one store over there.
Yeah, it's problem. Yeah, it's problematic. Never mind, it's problematic. Especially Shemitah's years, it's very problematic in Israel. Okay. בין בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, בזמן שאין בית המקדש קיים, בעניין מעשר דגן, when it talks about grain, מבואר הטעם ברטנורה. ברטנורה explains the reason. לפי שקדושת הארץ לא בטלה. So even though the Beit Mikdash doesn't exist, the holiness of the land always exists. So since the land is holy, it is a sacrifice. So you have to partake of that sacrifice. It's almost like the holy of the land. ובספרי דרשו, כל תרומות הקדשים אשר הביאו בני ישראל להשם, all the grains that you bring to God, להשם נתתי לך, it says, I gave it to you, ולבניך, and to your son, ובנותיך, איתך לחוק עולם. It says, this is a chok forever. Why does it need to specify chok olam? Whether the temple is standing, whether the temple is not standing. שינהג הדבר לדורות, that it's going to be for all generation. That when it comes to the grain. We have a verse in the Torah that tells us it's not even in the time when there's no temple. What about maaser behema? What about the tithing of the sheep, the cattle? Hukash lemaaser dagan. So there's a hekesh. It's a similar wording when it comes to the animals and to the grain. Va'bechorot, and the firstborn, kdushatam merechem. It says they're always holy. They're holy because they're born holy. It says, what do you say? Vechovat agufem. And this is, in other words, you don't make all the other things. Who makes them holy? When you separate it, you make that separation holy. The Bechor is even more. You don't have to do anything. It's holy by the fact that it comes out. You don't even need to do the separation to make it holy. It's not even you. It's there. It's the guf עצמו. מכאן בכור ומעשר בהמה קדושים גם בזמן הזה. Therefore, firstborn and tithing of the animal are holy also in our time. So again, you can't give it to today. Nobody can eat them. Nobody can become pure, and even if you can become pure, no Kohen has the title that he can say, give it to me, he has the right to ask for it. He cannot prove that he's a Kohen. אלא שצריך להמתין עד שיפול במום. So what do? You wait until the animal has a blemish, ואז נאכלים בכל מקום. And once they have a blemish, they cannot go in they can't be sacrificed anyway, and then you can do with them whatever you want. אבל בגמרא אמרו, the Gemara they said, שחכמים ביטלו מעשר בהמה, that the sages nullify the whole thing of tithing of animals, משום חשש תקלה, because they're worried about a problem that may arise. שמא עד שיפול במום, they were afraid that a person is not going to wait until there's going to be a blemish in the animal. ייכשל באיסור גיזה ועבודה. A person is going to walk the animal or to shear the sheep or do something because everybody says, so he says, you know what, we're going to nullify the whole thing of tithing at all because it's only going, anyway, it's not going to go to the Kohen, anyway, it's going to go to the temple, it's just going to cause problems for the people, so we're going to nullify. We say there's no tithing, don't worry about it. How can they do that? I'm not quite sure. שדין מעשר בהמה כדין בכור בעניין זה. That they make the laws of the tithing of an animal just like the laws of the firstborn. עיין דברים. או שמא ישחטנו קודם, or maybe they refrained that the person is going to slaughter him before, שיפול במום, before it becomes a blemish. ברם, בכור לא או. So it says, that you can do about tithing of the animals, but firstborn they can't do that. It's always there. It has nothing to do with you. אבל בכור לא יכלו לבטול, but the חכמים cannot take away the holiness of the firstborn because it's not you who make the holiness. It's the animal itself is holy. לפי שאין קדושתו תלויה בנו, because its holiness has got nothing to do with us. המקדיש שקלים וביקורים. Somebody who designated money for shkalim and bikurim. So somebody designated money away for shkalim uperot lebikurim בזמן הזה, or in our times he says, hey, this is money for shkalim, or this perot is bikurim, כשאין בית המקדש קיים, even though there's no temple. So he says, maybe you can say that now they're not holy. So it says, no, they are holy because you designated it for holiness, they are holy. הרי זה קודש, they are holy now. חלה עליהם קדושה, they do become holy, ומניח את הביקורים עד שירקבו, therefore he needs to leave the fruits until they become rotten, והשקלים יגנזו. And the money that you designated, you cannot use again, ever again. So you have to bury them somewhere, hide them somewhere, or izrokam לים המלח, or throw them into the sea, so that they're going to become lost. Nobody's going to find your money in the middle of the sea. Rabbi Shimon disagrees. האומר ביקורים קודש אינם קודש. Rabbi Shimon says, even if a person says that bikurim is holy, they never become holy. כיוון שכתוב בהם במפורש, I'll tell you why. You cannot make them holy. Because it says about Bikurim, Tavi Beit Hashem Elokecha. It says you have to bring them to the house of your Lord. In other words, you cannot make something holy if there's no temple. The only way to make it holy if there's a temple. לפיכך, אפילו בדיעבד, therefore, even if a person said, כשאדם הקדיש פירות לביקורים בזמן הזה, when a person today didn't know the rules, for example, and he designated bikurim in this time, אין שם ביקורים חל עליהם ואינם קודש. Don't worry about it, you can eat them immediately, they're not holy, you don't have to rot them, because you don't have the ability to make them holy, because there's no temple. The minute the temple is built, then you have the ability. ובירושלמי יש דעה, ירושלמי has an opinion, שאף בשקלים חולק רבי שמעון על תנא קמא. That he says, even in Shekalim, he says, you don't need to throw in other words, even in Shekalim, it says you don't need to throw this Shekalim into the sea, even if you designated it for the sacrifices. וסובר שאינם קודש, and he holds that they're not holy. הרמב"ם מפרש, the Rambam explains, שהמחלוקת של תנא קמא ורבי שמעון, that the disagreement of תנא קמא ורבי שמעון, היא בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, is only at the time that the temple is built. ומדובר, and over there it's talking about במי שהקדיש שקלו, somebody who designated money, או ביקוריו לבדק הבית, or he designated his fruit for the upkeep of the house, for the general maintenance of the temple. שלדעת תנא קמא דבריו קיימים, according to תנא קמא, he did something, in other words, he designated good, ורבי שמעון חולק בביקורים, and רבי שמעון disagrees when it comes to ביקורים, וסומר שאינם קודש לבדק הבית, and he says you cannot use them, they do not fall to become used holy for their house. לפי שהביקורים לכהנים, because you can't do it. It was never designated to go to that purpose. It was designated to go to a different purpose. What's a different purpose? The person, the Kohen that works on that shift. So in other words, you're transferring charities that you're not allowed to do. You're allowed to transfer charities between sacrifices and Bedek Habayit, because it's the same God, but it's the same person, let's call it. But to take it from a person, from God, and to give it to a person, that you're not allowed to do. לפי שהביקורים לכהנים הם, ואין אדם מקדיש דבר שאינו שלו, and you cannot tell the Kohen, take something away from a Kohen and give it to somebody else. אבל בשקלים מודה רבי שמעון שם קודש, but in Shekalim he says, you know what, even though Shekalim usually goes for sacrifice, you can designate Shekalim for all the other uses that Shekalim was used for, which is one of them was Bedek Habayit. וההלכה כרבי שמעון, and ההלכה is like רבי שמעון. בעניין הרישא של משנתנו, when it comes to the beginning of our Mishnah, כותב בעל תפארת ישראל, the תפארת ישראל writes, לא זכיתי לידע איך שייך דין זה לכאן. It says, I don't know why this law is here in this מסכת שקלים. והרי אין לו המשך לא למעלה ולא למטה. Because it does not, there's no addition to it, not before it and not after it. והיה יכול לשנותה במסכת תמיד. It says, and he should have said it מסכת תמיד. In other words, the laws about the sacrifices, the tamid sacrifices, it says being on the mizbech, it says, what's the connection of it to here? It says, it looks like it's in the wrong place. You know, it's like, remember I said up to here and then we started something new? So it says, it doesn't belong over here. It doesn't belong to the previous one, it doesn't belong to the next one. Why did they put it here? So he says, "V'akadosh Baruch Hu ya'ir einenu b'sitrei Torato." He says, one day God is going to tell us why Rabbi Yehuda Nasi decided to put it over here. Ve'efshar, and then after he says it, he says, "I'll try to give you a reason." Efshar, it's possible to say, "Shenishtana kan agav ha'inyan sheshanu la'il." That the reason why it was mentioned over here because of something we mentioned before. Where on Mishnah Daled? What did we say on Mishnah Daled? ששותחים הפרוכת על גג האצטבה. You remember we said that even when you don't use the parochet, the screen, this parochet, yeah, even when you don't use it, you have to wait until overnight. You put it in a place that everybody can enjoy it, display it, כדי שיראו העם את מלאכתה שהיא נאה, that the people are going to see that the job, that God's house is nice. הביא גם משנה זו להשמיענו בספר. That's why he told us over here that Evarei Musaf, just like in that Mishnah, you put the limbs of the sefer on the top so that everybody can see, oh, today is Musaf, it's a special day.
You don't have to say, what's wrong with today?
Yeah, everybody sees right there. It's nice, it looks full of animals. שברי המוסף של ראש חודש מניחים על כרכוב המזבח, that you put it on the altar, כדי לפרסם לעם של ראש חודש היום, in order to tell everybody that today is ראש חודש. ורבי שיסי סירלה כותב הטעם, somebody else writes the reason, הואיל ונשנו לעיל גבולין לעניין שריפת בשר קודש שנטמא, it says the reason why it's mentioned over here, because yes, before we learned all the rules where to burn which sacrifice, burn it over here, burn it over there, לפיכך מובאה כאן משנה זו העוסקת בגבולים לעניין הנחת איברים. So over here also it talks about this, where to place it. You place this in this area, you place that on that area. לפני עלתם על גבי המזבח, before you bring them and burn them on the מזבח. סליק מסכת שקלים. We ended the מסכת of שקלים.